Will the Utah offense finally air it out more in 2024? We've been asking for years, when will this offense take a more aggressive aerial approach? And I believe this could finally be the season that it occurs. A large part of the reason being the wide receiver room, which we're also diving into that talented group on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we cover your team every day. If you're in the market for a second listen, Locked On College Football, our friend of the show, Spencer McLaughlin, has you covered there. So make sure you guys check him out. Also, if it's your first time tuning in, make sure you like and subscribe. Love to interact with all of you on YouTube or on social media. We could follow our show at Locked On Utes today. And today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by FanDuel. You can make every moment more. As the playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. You can visit FanDuel.com to get started. My name is JT Wistrcill, excited to be joined on today's show by Austin Eames. And Austin, this is our last week without Utah football outside of bye weeks, but like then it's I'm not counting those ones as much for a very long time, I hope, with Utah hopefully going on that playoff success. So excited we're closing in on the season. And I think one thing a lot of people are excited about is the potential of this offense to be more aggressive through the air. Utah has always had a good ground game. And, with Cam Rising, the short to intermediate passing game has been decent, but it's been long asked, especially with the way Kyle Whittingham likes to take care of the ball. When are we going to see more explosive plays? When are they going to air it out more? And I do think this is finally the year we could see that happen. And I want to say why that is. First of all, I want to say the most passing yards in a season that Utah's ever had was actually all the way back in 1988. They had 4,355 yards. But if we do look back to the last time Cam Rising led this offense, because I don't think they're going to touch that number, but I do think they're going to have a really good season, because in 2022, Utah had 3,489 passing yards. Now, those numbers do combine to also include what Bryson Barnes did, but mostly, obviously, what Cam Rising did. And that was their first time over 3,400 passing yards since 2005. So with Cam Rising under center, this offense was already, even from 1 year, from 21 to 22, had already shown the signs of growth. So I think when you factor in a talented group of receivers that we'll dive in on, the best tight end room in college football for my money, pass protecting and pass catching running back like Mycah Pittman, an experienced quarterback in Cam Rising who has the trust of Andy Ludwig and who came back for a reason to air it out more. I think we're going to see a big year from this passing offense. And I do think Utah will have the most passing yards they've had in the 21st century, because that means they just have to get over that 3,400 yard mark. And I expect them to do that this fall.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, JT. I think everything is setting up for Utah to have a huge offensive season in 2024. I mean, like you said, Mycah Pittman is a receiving back, and he's going to be a guy who can catch balls out of the backfield and turn them upfield for a big gain. You said it, Utah's tight end room is phenomenal this year with Brant Keithy, Carson Ryan, Landon King. Utah's wide receivers are really good. I think we're going to talk about it in a little bit, but that might be one of the best rooms Utah's had in a long time. And obviously you have a healthy Cam Rising, which is a huge factor for improving this offense, this passing offense. It's going to be a big year. I hope you're right. I hope it is the best passing offense Utah's had in the 21st century. I mean, that would mean big things for a team that's trying to win the Big 12. But at a bare minimum, it'll definitely be an improvement from last season. Utah averaged 165 yards passing last season, which is measly. They had 20 more yards rushing per game, averaged 182 yards rushing. And that's coming after 2022 with Rising, where the team averaged 250 yards passing. So I think we're definitely going to see closer to that 2022 number, obviously, with all the talent this offense has. But I would love to see it closer to that 300 yards per game mark.
I would as well. And once again, going back to this offense, for why I say they could have their best, this Utah team could have their best passing offense since the 21st century. They absolutely should. Once again, that bar is 3,000 it's 3,400 yards, and they had 3,489 yards, which is their most since that 2005 season. Like we said, I think this is a Utah team that if they just get 3,800 yards, kind of in between the 4,000 yard mark, it'd be the fourth most in program history. So I think this passing offense is definitely on the uptick. And one also weird fact, Utah's only gone over 4,000 yards passing twice. It was in 88 and 89. So it's been a long time since we've seen this aerial offense really take flight, and they have a chance to do it. And simply put, when you're talking about being a truly explosive offense, because that's what it's going to take for Utah's aerial game to get to the next level, they've dominated over the middle of the field. They've winning on short routes. That's what Cam Rising, the tight ends, have thrived on. But it's time to really push the ball downfield, in my opinion. We've been asking for it for years, and this is the wide receiver room that is finally going to allow Utah to do it. And let's go through and preview this wide receiver room. And, of course, you have to start with what I would still probably say was the biggest transfer addition to this team in Dorian Singer. It's a receiver with a 1,000-yard season under his belt. No, it did not go his way at USC last year. He only had 280 yards, but we talk about this all the time. What did go USC's way? And just because it didn't go great at USC last year, does that mean Caleb Williams isn't going to have a good year in the NFL? I already see him making crazy throws. So I think last year were a lot of things that went wrong at USC, and I think Singer was a product of just too many mouths to feed there. I'm not saying he's going to go over 1,100 yards and have 66 catches like he did, and he had 400-yard plus games when he was at Arizona. But I do think he's going to have a great year because he's an exquisite route runner, does a great job adjusting the ball in the air. He can win at all three levels. If Utah gets the guy who was back at Arizona, which I expect them to get something close to me, they're getting one of the 20 best receivers in college football. I do think Dorian Singer is going to return to that form because he's in an offense that he's going to be one of the focal points on the outside. And he came here for Utah to maximize his skills. Cam Rising came back to maximize his skills. Together, they're going to be a really difficult combination to contain on the outside.
Yeah, Singer, like you said, was a huge offseason addition, along with Damien Alford, who came to Utah from Syracuse. He was another big addition. But Singer, he had a 99.9 PFF grade on throws of 20 yards or more in 2022 when he played at Arizona. I mean, that's the guy Utah's getting. I think, like you said, USC was a different story. Didn't really have the best season, had 24 receptions for 289 yards and 3 touchdowns, but I don't think that was due to a lack of talent. That was definitely due to him being behind Mario Williams, Taj Washington, Zachariah Branch. I mean, these are talented receivers that were in USC's room and got more targets than Singer for whatever reason. And I think he's shown what he can do. Obviously, you look at the Arizona tape, he had over 1,000 yards, 6 scores, 66 receptions. Like I said earlier, was great on deep throws. And that's what I saw when I watched him in the spring. I mean, he had some phenomenal catches that really get you excited. I think when I think of Singer, he has that it factor in a receiver that Utah hasn't had for a long time. And that's no shot at Devon Vele. Obviously, we all saw his preseason catch with the Broncos. That was sick. But I don't know. Singer is exciting, and he's the most excited I've been for a wide receiver in a long time. I remember a specific play during spring practice where Cam Rising threw a ball that looked like it was going to be intercepted. It went straight to the DB, and Singer jumped over the DB's head, snagged the ball out of his hands, and you were just sitting there with your mouth open like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Cam Rising gets to throw to that guy. I actually while I was doing my research, I looked back to the text I sent my editor, and I wrote, Singer caught the ball from Rising that looked like an interception before he mossed the DB for a catch. Nasty. And I think we're going to see more of that this season, and it gets me really excited.
Gets me excited too. I definitely think we're in for more of it. Can't wait to see Singer on the field. He is the wide receiver one of this unit and should have a massive season this fall. One of the most complete and special wideouts Utah's had in a long time. Darren Carrington was, of course, the last time Utah had a pass catcher over 900 yards. I don't think Singer will go over 900, but he definitely has a chance to. Honestly, if it wasn't for Brant Keithy, I'd probably feel even stronger because I still think Brant Keithy's probably going to lead this team in receiving yards, but I am expecting big things from Singer. Just like I am the rest of the Utah receiver room, including Damien Alford. You already mentioned him, Austin. I do think he's going to end up being this team's second best pass catcher. And I don't know if everyone who didn't follow this team when they acquired him post-spring ball knows about just how special he's going to be. We're going to talk about his talents and what he will bring to Utah's wide receiver room in one moment But first, want to take a moment to talk to you all about one of the sponsors of today's episode of Locked On Utes, our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts. That's right, 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. You keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions do apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers, so make sure you guys head over to eBay Motors today. Also want to remind you guys, college football is in the thick of fall camp right now, but we are coming up on some games later this week. Week 0 gets rolling, and that means you need to get caught up on all things in the world of college football. That's where you can head over today and check out Locked On College Football. Friend of the show, Spencer McLaughlin, breaks everything down in the sport we love so much. All the latest news, storylines, headlines, they're there in Locked On College Football, so make sure you guys check it out today. All righty, awesome. Let's keep it rolling. Talking about Damien Alford. This is a guy who played in 42 career games with 28 starts at Syracuse. If you look at some of the special things he did just last year, 610 yards on 33 catches, three touchdowns, and averaged 19 yards a catch last year. So you want to talk about an explosive offense? That's what Alford will be bringing. He has that ability to take the top off the defense, and also you can't not love the length, right? A 6'6" wide receiver. This guy, Dorian Singer, is, like we said, he's the proven commodity. He is the number one receiver because of what he's produced. But Singer's also only 6 foot. So there's no doubt who the most intimidating looks-wise receiver is going to be when you see Alford's long strides breaking past on the outside. That large catch rate is going to be very friendly to Cam Rising. And I think Alford is going to routinely make those 20 to 30-yard grabs, just like we saw Singer do during his time in Arizona. But now they'll both be doing them inside Rice-Eccles Stadium.
Thank goodness. I think Alford is going to complement Singer really well. Like you said, two guys who are equally talented, but with a wildly different skill set. Obviously, Singer's going to get you the shorter gains and run after the catch, where Alford's just going to go downfield and catch a ball. He averaged 19 yards per catch in his career at Syracuse, which is absurd. I am so excited that Utah's getting that. And I think another thing that really stood out to me is his production improved year after year. He went from mid 200 yards receiving to in the 400s. And then last year had his best season, 33 receptions, 610 yards, and 3 touchdowns as Syracuse's leading receiver. So this is a guy that's got better each and every year. And while I don't know if statistical production will go up this year, obviously you already talked about it. Utah has a wildly talented room of receivers, tight ends. I think there's so many mouths to feed. So even if nobody jumps out at you statistically, I think a lot of guys are going to have really amazing seasons. But Alford is going to benefit from Cam Rising so much. No shade on Garrett Shrader, Syracuse's quarterback, but Cam Rising is a much better quarterback than Garrett Shrader. And I think he's going to elevate Alford to a level that is going to help Utah. It's going to help Utah a lot.
I think he is too. Those are the top 2 receivers. I think most would agree with that. If you were to say who's the 3rd best receiver on Utah, I might say Mony Parks. And this is where things get interesting, right? Because, X, Y, Z receiver, there's all these positions and things like that too. But I still think Mony Parks is best out on the outside. And he can very well work effectively as Utah's slot guys. And honestly, I think Singer is a guy who will line up all over the field, just like Brant Kuithe is going to line up all over the field. So when you're talking about like who will be the next receiver to play the most snaps, maybe it will be Mony Parks 3rd, but I don't know. We're just right now when we're recording this, I think it's going to be Mycah Pittman. I think he is a guy that I pencil in as a slot guy over the middle of the field. Him and Cam Rising have great trust for one another. And anyone who's listening is saying they have never once played on the same college team together. That's true, but they played together growing up. Mycah came to Utah to play with Cam Rising. Of course, Singer and Alford did too, but Mycah specifically came because he knows Cam Rising. And Mycah is a guy to me who's been working hard. The coaches have already highlighted what he's been able to do right a few different times too. He's had an 85-yard receiving yard game during his time at Florida State too. And, overall go back to his time at Oregon, right? Total 38 receptions for 547 yards. He's a guy that just seems like he's destined to break out. He's a former 4-star recruit. He has the trust. He's crafty over the middle field. We know in the past he's been a successful punt returner too. Mony Parks very well could be third in the receiving yards, but to me, Singer's the do it all. Alford's take the top off the defense, and Pittman is that quick slot guy that I think is going to work a lot over the middle field. So those are the top 3 guys for me. Do you think the third leader amongst receivers and receiving yardage will be Pittman, or do you think Mony Parks will come back up here?
It's hard. It's like 1A and 1B for me, obviously.
Yeah.
In terms of that, the guys fighting for that third slot. I think Munir McLean could also very well find himself getting meaningful snaps there. But Mycah Pittman, man, watching him during spring ball, he did not drop a pass. He had, I would say, the best hands in the wide receiver room that I saw. His hands were impeccable. He was just making catch after catch after catch. And like you said, that connection with Cam Rising, that's big. That I think that is something that's really going to help him get meaningful snaps on this team's offense. Cam Rising, he called him world class. That's the kind of guy you want on the field. Obviously, I think Mony Parks is this team's X factor. You go back to last season, first play of the 2023 season versus Florida, 70-yard touchdown. That's exciting. I think Mony Parks is the guy that's going to go off for some explosive plays this season, and people are going to be shaking their heads being like, how the heck did he do that? But I do think that Mycah Pittman generally is more dependable, just like I said, due to those hands. I think he's going to have a big season. I worry about the injury bug that's plagued him the last couple of seasons, but if he can stay away from that, I really think that this will be a big season for him statistically, more than he's seen in recent years due to those injuries he's suffered.
Yeah, you mentioned he had a great spring ball too, and I'm really excited to see the season that he can have. And we've both talked about Mony Parks a little bit now. I love that you call Mony Parks the X factor, because to me, I said right now he might be 4th in receiving yards. To me, that's probably his floor if he stays healthy. His ceiling, to me, is probably 2nd amongst receivers in receiving yards. I want to talk about how realistic it is that he could reach that ceiling and really be a game-changing presence for this Utah offense in one moment. But first, we have to discuss our fantastic friends at FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. And thankfully, football is back. Week 0 is this week, so we don't have to worry anymore about how many days till the sports return, because they're back. Major League Baseball, of course, still rolls on, but football is here. With the return of college football, which Week 0 games do you have your eye on? I probably wouldn't do the Florida State-Georgia Tech one because I don't know how close that one is going to be over in Dublin, but there's tons of other fun matchups like Montana taking on New Mexico State. Shout out Big Sky. So I'm excited to consume any and all college football, and NFL's coming up too. So that's where FanDuel has you covered. Okay, because this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster of bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. You can head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. So if you still want to check out what's going on, FanDuel's got you covered there. But you can also go to FanDuel.com and get in on all the NFL and college football action today. Talking about Mony Parks, you mentioned it, Austin. 70-yard touchdown, first play from scrimmage for the offense. And he unfortunately peaked from there, and not really to his fault, I'll add as well. Obviously, Utah had its quarterback issues and the offensive line, so it was just kind of a mess and conservative play calling because they didn't trust the quarterback. But I think Mony Parks is a chance for a great year. If you look back to what he did to the last couple, like against USC, right? I remember he had like that 49 to 50-yard pass to jumpstart the offense in the regular season game. The 3rd and 19 touchdown in the Pac-12 championship game. Sure, it was abysmal tackling, but he still made the play. Mony's got the speed. We know that. He's a guy who can take the top off the defense too. For one reason or another, it's just never quite worked out for him to put together that campaign where he's plus 500 yard receiver. But it does feel like this year he has an opportunity to be a difference maker. It's a crowded wide receiver room, but I think Mony has the chance to put it all together. He knows this offense better than any guy we've talked about so far because of how long he's been in it. He has a chance to be this team's 2nd receiving yardage leader among the receivers to me because of that experience and that lethal speed.
Yeah, I would love to see what Mony could do with 5 receptions a game. I mean, the past 2 years, he's done a lot with the little receptions he has gotten, only about 2 receptions per game. But like you said, in 2022, he had 26 for 414 yards and 2 touchdowns with a bunch of big plays that were game-changing plays when Utah needed them most. Did the same thing in 2023 with the bad quarterback play, like you said, had 31 receptions for 293 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I really think if Mony can get 5 receptions a game, I mean, I said it earlier, he's an X factor with the ball in his hands, and he does special things when he has the ball in his hands. So I think he's Utah's most exciting run after the catch guy, maybe toe and toe with Dorian Singer, but I want to see Mony get the ball, and I want to see him do his magic that he always seems to do when he gets the ball in his hands, create big plays. And I don't know, Utah's in a really good spot. You have 5 senior receivers on your roster, all vying for playing time, and none of them are terrible options. I think Utah's in a really good place with this receiver room.
You too. And now we got to talk about the best of the rest. To me, the clearly 5th guy I have right now is McLaughlin. And I do think this is another guy, more opportunities. Let's see what he can do, right? I think about the touchdown he had against Arizona State, the 20-yard moss on their defensive back. I think about games like Arizona where he leads Utah in receiving yards too. He's had moments where he's been really good, but injuries have really derailed his season. So can he stay healthy and have a monster year? I hope so. And that's what's nice about this Utah receiver room. Look, it's college football. Usually, yes, Utah last year, the injuries were insane, but like it's rare you're like a position group makes it through the year fully healthy. We've already seen the Utah linebackers lose Le'Avani Damuni, right? Utah running back room not fully intact with Anthony Woods not going to be there this year. It's kind of been reported, right? So you look down at the receiver room, someone's probably going to get hurt, just how it goes. McLaughlин's a guy I look at right away that could step up. But even outside of McLaughlin, I mean, Tyson Lyons has a chance to be special. I think Zipper and some of the other guys I don't expect to see as much. But to me, Lyons is another guy who I have him as the 6th receiver right now. Definitely could rise up the board. A 4-star wide receiver from Washington who has all the skill set and tools to be successful and learn from some of the best that we saw in the college football in general last year too. So to me, McLaughlin and Lyons are the next guys, and I do expect them to contribute this fall. McLaughlin more than Lyons, but I do think Lyons is the future of the wide receiver position at the University of Utah.
Yeah, I would argue that McLaughlin could have had a starting role on this team had Alford not transferred in. I mean, Utah's offense has always operated best when there's a big-bodied wide receiver there to catch balls downfield. Obviously, it was Devon Vele for the past few years, but McLaughlin, he's 6'4", about 215 pounds. He averaged 17.9 yards per catch last season on 15 receptions. And I mean, I think if Damien wasn't on the team, that he would be the guy that fills that role and is Cam Rising's deep threat that he can just chuck a ball to and hope he comes down with it, that 50-50 guy. Obviously, he has deceiving speed for his size too. So I'm really excited to see what he does this season. Like you said, also Tyson Lyons, Dorian Zipper. Those are 2 guys, very young, both freshmen. I hope they get some snaps this season, but I really am excited for them in 2025 and beyond. I think those are talented receivers that Utah is just able to form, and they're going to come next year with Isaac Wilson or whoever it may be at quarterback, and I really think that they're going to shine. The guy this season that I like and could get some meaningful snaps is Luca Caldarella. He had a really big spring, and the team likes him a lot, and I think his contested catch ability is up there among the best on the Utah roster. So I would like to see him in some red zone sets, a guy to catch passes there. But I'm excited to see what he does too. He's a junior, probably has 2 more seasons. So I really like where Utah's roster is at. I think the future is bright in terms of the wide receiver room. Obviously, we already talked about Zip. We talked about Lyons. I think Zach Williams and David Washington are 2 other freshmen that could come to their own, be big pieces in 2025 and beyond. Obviously, we're all crossing our fingers for Jerome Miles. That would be a huge addition. But I think the transfer portal is also a big factor. Utah's two of Utah's 3 starting receivers, we think, this season are transfer portal additions. So I'm excited to see what Utah adds in the transfer portal after the year's done. But I guess first we have to get to this 2024 season.
I can't wait to get to it. We're only 10 days away to Austin, which is just insane. And 2 things to put a ball on the receivers conversation. Cal Durrell, if I remember correctly as well, I think he's a really tenacious blocker, and we know how important that is amongst Utah receivers. So I do expect him to earn some opportunities because of that, and hopefully then get some catches rewarded for, what they say, no block, no rock. So hopefully he gets those opportunities. And also shout out to Alvis Whitted for assembling this elite, talented receiver, bringing in Singer, bringing in Alford, helping these other guys develop, convincing Lyons to come over. This is a really talented receiver room because of the guys that he's brought in. So hats off to Coach Alvis Whitted. Excited to see if this room can live up to the hype this fall. Speaking of live up to the hype, Austin, I texted you earlier today. I wanted a bold prediction as we are just 10 days away from the start of the season. So what is your bold 2024 Utah football prediction?
All right. My bold prediction is pretty bold, JT. I think that after the 2024 season, well, here, I'll start with this. 7 years ago, the University of Utah had 8 players selected in the NFL draft in a class highlighted by Garrett Bowles, who went to the Denver Broncos, and Marcus Williams, who went to the New Orleans Saints. That's the most Utah's ever had drafted all time, 8. My bold prediction is that after the 2024 season, Utah will break that record for the most players they've ever had taken in the NFL draft. I think there are a dozen guys on this roster who could hear their name called during the 2025 NFL draft in Green Bay, but I have my 10 most likely. I think Brant Kuithe, in no particular order either. I think guys will rise and fall as the season goes on. I think there are guys that will join this list. I think there are guys that will depart from this list. But anyway, I have Brant Kuithe, Dorian Singer, Zamaya Vaughn, Junior Tafuna, Keenan Johnson, Karene Reed, Lander Barton, Cam Rising, Van Fillinger, and Lavani Damuni, who I know is injured, but I think his resume is good enough to make the NFL. But those are my 10 guys. I was wondering if you think I missed anybody, JT.
So I think there's a lot of that. Maybe a Samote Peppa, if he has a monster year, that could. Because here's the thing, I absolutely agree. I've done a show on this myself too. Utah could have I think this year will have as many of like 17 to 20 guys leave the program. Some of those will be undrafted free agents. A lot of them may be drafted. I think when you ran through, can you run through that list one more time for me real quick?
Of course. Brant Kuithe, Dorian Singer, Zamaya Vaughn, Junior Tafuna, Keenan Johnson, Karene Reed, Lander Barton, Cam Rising, Van Fillinger, and Lavani Damuni.
I'll add a Damien Alford. I think Mycah Pittman is capable of it too. And even maybe some of the Utah offensive linemen if they make some improvements. So there's a lot of guys on this team that have a chance to be drafted. I love that prediction, Austin. I'm excited to see if it'll come to fruition because if it does, Utah had a pretty great year. So can't wait to get underway. And thank you for joining me, Austin.
Thanks for having me, JT.
That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Utes. This week, we're wrapping up our position previews. Also, we're going to hear from the coaches, so want to hear from everything about fall camp and everything that's going on. All that and more, we will be breaking it down on Locked On Utes. We hope to see you on tomorrow's show.